Welcome to Keen on Keys. To complete my series about the Casio VL-1, I'm going to have a quick look at the software emulations. I found about 8 or 9, but I'm just going to have a look at 3 of them. They are freeware, so you can give all of them a try. I will put the download links in the description. I start with Cheapo Tone by Mokafix, for PC only. Just unpack and copy it to your VST plugin folder. If you don't have a DAW, I can recommend Nano host to play VST instruments. Copy it to the same location and rename it. It has to be the exact same name. And it's ready to play. We see a few controls that we already know from the original VL-1. Volume, balance, octave, the preset button, and a mode button. There's a second mode knob to change the polyphony. And some knobs for the 8 parameters. And 6 drum pads with some additional sounds. Let's compare the sounds to the original. The default sound is violin. Some of the presets seem to have a tiny bit of portamento, but I can't turn it off, because the portamento knob is only working when ADSR is selected. Piano. Fantasy. The vibrato is different. Flute. Guitar. The overall sound is much brighter and sharper, but it could also be that my VL-1 sounds a bit muffled. I don't have a second one to compare it, but I doubt that all VL-1s sound exactly the same. We can't edit the presets with the other knobs. These are only active when ADSR is selected. But by default, you can't hear anything. You can twist the knob and you see the number changes, but nothing happens. You have to create your own basic waveforms first. Switch to tone edit mode. You can save the waveform to one of the 10 presets. You see the sound knob is also turning. The presets are just storing the waveform, not the other parameters. We can edit the pitch and the pitch modulation, the volume and pulse width of the square wave, and here we have a low and a high pass filter, and a few more oscillators for more complex waveforms. The volume is set to 0 by default. You can reset the preset or save it. Push W. Now we can have a look at the other parameters. The envelope parameters don't have the strange behavior than the originals have. They react quite normal, and it's the same with vibrato and tremolo. This is very short. Add some attack. The sound doesn't increase to maximum if you push the key quickly. And decay isn't triggered. And we still hear decay although sustain level is set to maximum. Release doesn't get shorter at lower sustain levels. Vibrato and tremolo can be controlled with speed and depth. They are not in the correct order, and they both start from the beginning. And the effect gets faster, not slower at higher values. We can copy and paste the waveform settings with these buttons down here. Copy it to an empty preset and add pitch modulation. Don't forget to push W. And you can also create your own drum sounds. The drum sounds are mapped to MIDI channel 10, while the main voice is on channel 1. I like this concept, but it would have been very useful if the 10 original waveforms were available by default. It's not easy to recreate them, even if you know how the original waveforms should sound. The overall sound is much brighter, and vibrato, tremolo and the envelope parameters are completely different. So I would recommend this to someone who wants to create some totally different sounds with a bit of the character of the VL-1. The next one is simply called VL-1 by Polyvalens, also PC only. This is the most true emulation when it comes to look and functions. All the details are recreated. The sequencer, the synth section, and even the calculator works. The keys are velocity sensitive. And it's a bit irritating that the main voice is coming from the left and the rhythm from the right. Maybe this was done to record it to 2 separate tracks without using a second instance. Could be useful cause the rhythm and the sequencer aren't in sync with the host program. But we don't need that now. I will switch it to mono and turn off the velocity. Let's try the rhythms first. I can't hear a difference. Now the presets. Piano. It's quite close, but much brighter. Fantasy. There seems to be something wrong with MIDI when I play legato. The sound fades out, although I still press the key. Again much brighter, but as I said, it could be that my VL-1 is simply a bit more muffled. Violin. Flute. Guitar. The presets are pretty close to the originals. Let's have a look at the envelope. You can program new sounds the same way as with the original. Here you can also see 0 as the first digit. Sound increases to maximum. But this is strange. Add decay. Okay, the sound has to decrease to silence until you hear the right attack again. Decay stage is not triggered if the key is released quickly. Let's see if the decay stage is skipped at sustain level 9. Yes, the sound is short again. Now some sustain time. The volume steps are recreated nicely. And sustain time gets shorter at lower sustain levels. Tremolo starts a bit too early. It should start after decay. But vibrato is correct. I will try out some other sounds. This should sound longer if the key is released quickly. And it does. The slow violin. Tremolo starts too early. A bass sound. That's quite sharp. The B. The sound is quite close to the original. Some of the parameters are recreated quite well. In some points, it's a bit too realistic for my taste. I wish the programming was a bit easier. A mixture of this and the Cheapo tone would be my favorite. A true emulation, but with knobs for each parameter instead of entering 8 digits. And that's exactly where the last one comes into play. Calc-U-Synth VR by Icebreaker Audio for PC and Mac. This is only available on the Native Instruments community site. I think it's an early version of the commercial Calc-U-Synth. You need Reaktor Player for that. It's also freeware. Download it from the Native Instruments website. Install and open it, and just drag the file into the window. This is more or less how I thought an emulation of the VL-1 should be. You can change all parameters very easily. It has additional filter, glitch and delay effects, a speaker simulation, and you can dial in the key click sounds. The drum sounds are missing. Let's have a look at the envelope parameters. This is the shortest sound. It's a bit too long. Attack is right. And also the whole decay stage is played when the key is pressed quickly. That's great. But the decay stage is not skipped at sustain level 9. You can hear the stepped volume resolution, but I think the steps are a bit too short. But sustain time gets shorter at low sustain levels. That's correct. Vibrato is right. It starts after attack and gets faster at lower values. Tremolo is a bit wrong. It doesn't start after decay. But it also gets faster and less audible at lower values. Now let's have a look at the presets. Piano. There's a rumbling noise in the background. Fantasy is missing in the preset list. I will try to program it. High sustain level, infinite sustain time, a bit release, and tremolo. That's quite close. Flute. Nice. The guitar sound seems to be the most difficult to recreate. None of the emulations get the attack right. Violin. Here the backing noise is pretty loud. I I don't know exactly if they use samples for the waveforms, but that would explain why the sounds are slightly out of tune. They are all about 15 cents too high. That's a bit annoying if you want to use the instrument in combination with others. I quickly play some more sounds. This one is with key clicks and speaker simulation. So let's play a song. I like all of the emulations. None of them is 100% like my VL-1, but keep in mind these are freeware. If you want to know how the real thing looks and works, have a look at Polyvalens VL-1. If you want to have more possibilities to create your own sound, give Cheapo tone a try. My favorite is Calc-U-Synth, although it's slightly out of tune and the drum sounds are missing. It feels most like the original, and I like the easy editing of the parameters. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.